Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I didn't just lose a 9-0 Supreme Court decision, so I'm great. How are you?
I'm also doing well, having not been in front of the Supreme Court arguing for my amateur status or others' amateur status to be remaining so that I can continue to live in nice houses off of their being able to shoot a ball into a hoop or throw a football down the field. So, yes, I'm doing pretty good.
That, for if you don't know what we're talking about, it's the Alston case, which I've had Dan Lust on to talk about a few times on the Morning Scoop. But basically, the NCAA was taking a case to the Supreme Court to basically defend their right to limit the amount of educational-related compensation student athletes can receive. And this does not directly impact NIL, but I think the NCAA was going there thinking like, well, maybe if we can get an exemption from, an antitrust exemption like Major League Baseball has, maybe this will all work out for us and we won't have to make all the changes. No, you only lost 9 of the Supreme Court judges. So I'm just going to read you a sample of I have not read the whole finding yet, but this is something that someone posted on Twitter from Brett Kavanaugh. Nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. And under ordinary principles, antitrust law is not evident why college sports should be any different. The NCAA is not above the law. So I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like that went really well for the NCAA, right? Is that your reading on that?
Well, I wonder, okay, so on Monday, 9 Supreme Court justices voted against the NCAA. Tomorrow, are there 10 more that could vote for the NCAA? Are there 10 more that can come in tomorrow? Like they work Monday, Wednesday, Friday for some, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the other judges.
Some people are on that swing shift. Yeah. I mean, you've got the people working second shift this afternoon that could come in. Yeah.
Some justices work 4 10s.
Still totally up in the air. Yeah. Okay. When you were listening to the discussion, to the debate over this back in April, it was like, this doesn't seem like it's going real well for the NCAA because it seems like everyone's pretty much lining up to just dunk on their case. And yes, turns out, yes, that is exactly what happened. And credit to the NCAA for being the only thing that you can get everyone in America to agree on. You stink. Great job.
Sometimes when you're doing the rope-a-dope, all that's really happening is you're just getting pummeled up against the ropes and you're not tiring anybody out because nobody is like, oh, I couldn't possibly rip on the NCAA anymore after this because everybody's just piling on ad nauseum, and we don't need to do that.
Can we though? Because I kind of like it. And again, this is an important distinction. This is not like, okay, now they can't stop NIL. It's just this case was not about NIL. This was about, it was like the right to get, laptop computers and other educational supplies related to, your education, not, separate deals with outside entities or whatever. Doesn't mean schools can pay players now. It just means, the NCAA can't limit the compensation that student athletes receive from schools, which means probably not boding real well for them to be able to limit the compensation student athletes receive from outside sources, such as deals through NIL, which, we're getting pretty close to July 1st and hasn't stopped yet. So that sure does seem like it's about to happen. And now all the people who told us they would never watch college football again if the players got paid, I guess we get to find out if that was just empty bluster or if they really meant it. I suspect empty bluster.
Well, probably. I know the NCAA, they did nothing to advance the NIL over this past week. It's something will have to happen here. I don't know if it's going to happen this week because, we're hitting July 1st. Everything's going to go into effect in different states, and the complete fairness that the NCAA thrives on is going to go out the window. And we know Ohio's Bill 2 law has nothing about a level of or a ceiling for payment, just like you mentioned the NCAA or the Supreme Court says you can't put a cap on it. So we are pretty close to watching something happen we've never seen before, and we'll see if the NCAA actually decides, you know what, let's go ahead and just enact this rule that allows this, because it's happening anyway. So let's just go ahead and say, okay. We agree. We're for this as well. Because, once somebody's busting down your door, you may as well just like open it for them.
I'm waiting for, and it's going to happen. Just mark my words. It's going to happen. Listen, we've wanted to do this all along. I don't know. You guys just shouldn't have rushed us, because now we're going to have to really slap something through, and it's going to be a mess, and there's going to be all sorts of fallout. It's like as if the NCAA hasn't spent the last 50 years saying, no, this is impossible. Cannot be done. Not a chance. No way. So yes, now they are the people who, the project or the big paper for the end of the semester is due, and they were supposed to be working on it for the whole semester. And it's like, oh, well, it's Monday and it's due Wednesday afternoon. So I should probably start looking at what was I supposed to be writing about again? That's the NCAA right now. So I'm sure it's going to go great, Tony. I'm sure it's going to go really, really smoothly and well.
It is remarkably fitting for a college entity to cram for the final at the last moment. Like Mark Emmert, I'm sure he's like, you guys couldn't have given me a heads up about this? You couldn't have said something sooner? I've been here the entire time, and this is the first time I am hearing about this. But you know what? It's a great idea. We should have done it. You should have said something sooner, and we could have had this. We could have had this for years if somebody would have just thought about the children. But nobody did.
Nobody thought about the children. Exactly. And I was thinking back to Jim Delaney saying, if schools had to pay players, the Big Ten would go Division III, which is, Jim Delaney did a lot of great stuff that remains one of the stupidest things ever said by any human being in any form ever. But this is not exactly what this is going to be. So this is not, people are going to hold that as, oh, he said this. Well, this is not the schools paying the players. NAL will be outside entities paying the players. So it's like, okay, they've got a loophole. The Big Ten doesn't have to go D3, which is probably good for all of our job securities at this point. So that's good. But yes, I think my takeaway here is a lot of people have said a lot of stupid things that have proven completely wrong about this whole thing over the years. And there's probably lessons to be learned about for the future about other things that are, proposed as changes that are, put forth as completely impossible. It can't be done. And then all of a sudden, I'm sorry, I misread it. It said can be done. I'm sorry. I misread the paper. Sorry.
It's also a good thing for Michigan that they don't drop down to Division III with the rest of the Big Ten, because then there would be another Ohio team in Mount Union to completely dominate them year after year after year after year. And we don't even want to get into poor, what Wisconsin Whitewater would do to them as well. So, but that's the NCAA. That's the latest thing going on there. Back at home here in Columbus at Ohio State, the Buckeyes just wrapped up the most important official visit in the history of the world, as JT Tuimoloau, the 5-star defensive end, spent a couple of days at Ohio State, now off to Oregon. But it sounds like from everything we've heard, we've been told, everything that Nevada and Bill Green have heard, and things have gone very well. I saw Brandon Huffman, who basically is the JTT beat, and up in Washington, he writes for 24/7, caught up with Tuimoloau, and everything went smashingly well at Ohio State. I thought it was interesting that Chris Holtmann was involved as well, saying, yeah, if you want to play basketball, we've got a spot for you here. Everything that he wanted to hear, he heard and saw, and something that you had mentioned with Bill Green had written about the style of Ohio State's defensive ends compared to the style of Alabama's defensive ends. That was also in play. And really, I think while I had some feedback that maybe showing up en masse in like dress basically was maybe a little over the top, and maybe some people out west kind of were a little cringing at it. Sounds like they hit the home run they needed to over the weekend.
Yeah, they don't need to win over Husky Dog 6437 on the Washington message board. Like they need to win over JT Tuimoloau, and that's okay. That's fine. It seems like this isn't home yet. They haven't won the tournament yet, but right now they are sitting in the clubhouse. They are very, very happy with how they played that last round. They're sitting in the clubhouse probably with a lead. It seems like everyone sort of agrees that Ohio State has the lead, and does Alabama come out and go birdie, eagle, albatross at the end. Like, yeah, I mean, they could. That is a possibility, and you never count out Nick Saban. But, Ohio State has done what they needed to do, it feels like. At least they feel like they've done what they needed to do, and it sounds like JT Tuimoloau feels like they did what they needed to do. It would be fairly surprising at this point if he went somewhere else. And again, you never count out Nick Saban. It would be extraordinarily surprising if he went somewhere other than Alabama or Ohio State at this point. But I think Ohio State did, based on everything we've heard from everyone that all of our folks have talked to, they made as strong a possible case as they could. They, tried to sort of you remember at the end of 8 Mile where Eminem is rapping against the other guy and he like preemptively heads off all the stuff that the guy's about to say about him. That's what Ohio State did to Alabama. It's like, yeah, Larry Johnson is old. Guess who's older? Nick Saban. Larry Johnson has told you he's going to be there. Guess what? People were saying that Larry Johnson was going to be there for Nick Bosa. Well, guess what? Larry Johnson was there for Nick Bosa, and he's been there for 3 years after that. Like, this is something that people have been talking about for a long time. And then, also here's the thing about Alabama's defense. Like, they'll tell you about all these guys who played in the NFL, and they put all these NFL draft picks out there. How many of them have you heard of compared to, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Chase Young? Like, are the guys who are winning NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year? Like, have you heard of them? Yes, you have. Oh, good. You want to be like them? Well, here's how you do that. And Alabama is not an easy program to beat because they have a lot going for them. But Ohio State sounds like they put together a very convincing proposal, that a very convincing plan and argument for why he should choose Ohio State. And it sounds like they did about as much as they could have over the weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned all of the first rounders that Alabama's put in. Like Quinnen Williams was the number 3 pick, went to New York, capital of everywhere. Like, if you can be a big name in New York, and do you hear about him? No. Like, is he playing well? Maybe. I don't know. I know Chase Young's playing well because I see him on TV every single week, whether he's in the game I'm watching or the highlights. Same with the Bosas when they're healthy. Like, you see these guys, everybody knows them. There's a significant weight to that, in my opinion, and I that has to carry. Just that's something that you check in the Ohio State box, and then you get to the whole NIL, which was part of the presentation as well, and there was a lot to like from Ohio State's perspective. Now he goes to Oregon, where I guess he's just going to try on a bunch of uniforms. I don't know exactly what happens at Oregon. We can turn you into Kayvon Thibodeau and who else? And they had a high first rounder a few years ago, but he bounced out of the league pretty quickly. And they have to sell different things. And so you mentioned this being like a tournament. I kind of feel like in a different tournament analogy, maybe Alabama and Oregon are in a loser's bracket right now. They'll face each other, and then they'll face Ohio State. And they would have to beat Ohio State twice in the finals to land him.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad analogy. Ohio State is sitting very pretty right now, and there's just Alabama would have to do everything right, pretty much. And I had who did I have in the morning scoop this morning? I've done a lot of morning scoops. This morning was Bill Green. Bill Green was talking about how when Nick Petit-Frere was getting recruited by Alabama doesn't get everything right all the time. And when Nick Petit-Frere was there, they kind of did the, hey, look at all these fun parties you can go to kind of recruitment with him. And that's not the kind of kid Nick Petit-Frere is. Nick Petit-Frere is, let's talk about academics. Let's show me the library again. Like that. That's Nick Petit-Frere. And they went with the, kid and play house party kind of version of the official recruitment. And it didn't go over well at all. And he ended up at Ohio State. And, they don't get everything exactly right, exactly perfect all the time. I think you would generally bet on them getting everything pretty much right all the time, just based on track record. And they do have a lot to sell down there and all of that. But I mean, I think Ohio State did absolutely everything they possibly could. Now, they're sort of sitting on the sideline watching all these other teams slug it out to try and get back into it. And, of all the positions you could possibly be in this recruitment, I don't think Ohio State would trade their spot with anyone right now.
That's funny. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to the Morning Scoop yet, but if you've talked to Nicholas Petit-Frere for any length of time, why on earth would you think that's what he would be about? He's one of the most self-aware players on the team. Like entering, he knows I'm probably not playing at all as a freshman, nor should I. I have a lot of work to do. I have to get bigger. I have to get stronger. Like he is a guy who understood from the beginning, like what his path would be and what it would take to get there. I'm blown away by that kind of miss on Alabama's part. And clearly, well, I think that's also where Greg Schiano came in. He knew Nick Petit-Frere really well, and they knew what he was about. So that is that. JTT wasn't the only official visitor this past weekend. Dallan Hayden, the running back out of Memphis, number 4 running back in the nation, number 237 overall. Sounds like he's the most likely running back in this class for Ohio State. When you watch his highlights, to me, he's kind of it's maybe a poor man's J.K. Dobbins. Doesn't maybe have Dobbins' top speed, and I can hear people saying, "Oh, Dobbins didn't have top speed." He does. Relax. But Hayden, what I really like about him, he's just really comfortable in traffic, and he's got really good vision, and so maybe he's as fast as Mike Weber. You're as fast as Mike Weber. You're comfortable in traffic. You can do a lot of things. And if there's also, and I'm not taking anything away from Hayden, there's only so the I guess the talent level of the running back that you can get in this class, I think, is only so high based on the talent level of the previous class. But the fact that you can get somebody like Dallan Hayden, who, if he signs with Ohio State, there's really not a lot of fear there from him, which you also like. So the guys who take themselves out by saying, no, I don't, I'm not even going to be, I don't want to compete with that. That's fine. Go. The guys who are like, you know what, I would still very much like to be a part of this. Then you start they kind of weed themselves out, and we'll see. Sounds like maybe something happening this week with him. We'll see.
Yeah. And you got to remember, they took in Travion Henderson and Evan Pryor last year. That's already a loaded room. So whoever's coming in now is coming in 1 year behind a guy who's a 5-star recruit, who you've heard us talk about Travion Henderson quite a bit. We were impressed with Evan Pryor, and a little bit we got to see Evan Pryor this spring. So you have a difficult path to a playing field. You're not going to walk on the campus and immediately be a 25, 30 carry a game back. Like, that's not what you're going to do if you're the 2022 Ohio State running back. And they're only looking at one back this year, because I think they're feeling pretty good about a couple guys in 2023 already. So this is kind of like the off year. This is, you're doing your you have your presidential election year, and then you have your Senate year, and then you have the year that is just kind of the municipal elections. Like, this is kind of the municipal election year, where it's like, these are still important, but you still have to, you're gonna not have quite as much interest. You're not gonna have quite as much, volume in the class if you want to. Like, this is the one running back year, 2 last year, probably 2 next year, probably a couple pretty big names next year based on what we're sort of hearing right now. So yeah, this is okay. You need your guy. Most positions, most quarterback rooms are not like 5-star like Ohio State has been doing. You normally have the 5-star, and then like the 3 or 4-star year, and then maybe get another 5-star if you're recruiting at that level. This is kind of the, okay, got a year in the middle of get another guy, continue building the depth. This is a guy who is good enough to play, who's good enough to contribute, probably fairly early in his career. And yeah, I mean, to your point, like Mike Weber, J.K. Dobbins, if he's either of those people, those guys are both extremely productive running backs at Ohio State. So you need to keep getting guys who can play at that level, who can contribute at that level, and then on to next year. So yeah, that does sound like one that don't be surprised if you hear news on that one in the relatively short-term future.
And I know on the message board it was brought up. This line of thinking was brought up. Like, you can't bring in a 5-star guy every year. And somebody said, well, Nick Saban does it. Actually, Nick Saban has only done it like once, where he's had back-to-back years of a 5-star running back. So he doesn't do it every year. So it's not a normal thing. You say it's like elections. Me being a soccer buff, it's kind of like the Euros being every 4 years, but it's in between the World Cup. Like, it's like the 2020 Euros are going on right now. Whereas, so it'll be 2020 and 2024. The World Cup is 2022, 2026. It's, it's not as big as the World Cup, but it's still a little fun. And Copa Americana is going on. That's just something I learned about as well.
I feel like if I asked you any follow-up question right now, there would be a lot of stammering, and you'd be frankly texting our buddy Pat Murphy to see if you could get the answer from him on any follow-up question. But I have no follow-up questions, fortunately for you.
Oh, is that because you don't know anything about soccer, mister?
I can explain about local elections if you'd like. That was the analogy I chose to use. One thing with the five-star thing is you could do that at some point in the past. Now with the transfer portal, if you're getting a bunch of 5 stars, these are guys who are expecting to play. And if they're not playing, then they're hitting the portal and then you have nothing. So I think it's all about building, why don't they just tell everyone, oh yeah, absolutely, you'll play right away, and keep bringing in 5-star guys? Like, well, because you do that, and then they come in and they go, you told me I was gonna play right away, and then they leave, and then you have no one, and that's a problem. So you have to be you have to be real straightforward with these kids and honest about here's what, here's the guys ahead of you, here's what we see out of them right now, here's where we see you fitting, here's the sort of the progression we see for you, and if that works for them, great, and if not, that's okay too. So that's the other piece of this, that you can't just get, this is not NCAA 13. You can't just stack 7 5-star quarterbacks in your quarterback room and just everyone sits there happily until you point your finger at them and say, now it's your turn to go win the Heisman Trophy. That's not how it works at all anymore.
Well, you remember 10 or 15 years ago when USC was doing that with running backs, I think they had 4 or 5 in a 3-year span. And it was just kind of a miserable experience for everyone. Guys transferred out. Nobody really shined in that opportunity. So you just, it's with in the portal now, you may get a 5-star and he's gone the next year. Just get the guys that are going to be happy to be there, who are also talented. And then, then Tom, if you're recruiting lesser players, if they leave, who cares? So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Then you can, when they come in, you can talk about how they're extremely underrated and how you think they're much better than that. And then when they leave, you can say, look, this guy was never going to, I think we told you from the beginning, this guy was never going to play here. I have been reading another Big Ten fan bases message boards this weekend. I'm sure if I gave you 5 guesses, you might have a chance of guessing which one it is. Getting the first half of that picture, and then just projecting forward what the second half of that might look like in a year or two. But I won't make you guess. I don't want to embarrass you.
Are you talking about Michigan landing a couple of 3-star running backs?
I said I didn't want to make you guess. I didn't want to. They're underrated, Tony. Shut up.
And the thing is, but you can't tell the recruit that you're underrated, because then they start to feel full of themselves. You have to tell these guys, no, you are properly rated. We're going to make you better. And if we don't, then it's your fault and you need to go. But let's digress. Another official visitor this past weekend, Kojo Antwi, wide receiver out of Georgia, number 16 receiver overall, number 116 player overall. I don't know. It sounds like things are maybe picking up with him. They're still looking for another receiver. To me, I don't know what it is that he does great. He kind of reminds me of KJ Hill in that regard. So I don't know what he does well, but he's the all-time leading receiver at Ohio State. So it must be something. I don't know what it is. He must have something. I can't put my finger on it, but he gets open and catches the ball and he moves the chains.
Yeah, and he's someone who, I mean, they can be exceptionally picky at wide receiver right now, exceptionally picky, because they've got a couple guys who are already good receivers in this class. They brought in 3 really good receivers last cycle. They've got some really good ones from the cycle before that. You still, I mean, this is, and there's no indication that wide receiver recruiting is going to slow down at any point in the future with Brian Hartline there. It just seems like, okay, he's just going to get his pick of 3 to 4 top 100 guys every year. Some of them will stick, some of them won't. But, the nice thing about recruiting 4 top 100 guys at wide receiver, this is not like running back or quarterback where only one of them is really going to play, or maybe 2. You can play 6 wide receivers and that's okay. And that's what they do. So you can keep a lot more of those guys happy. And yeah, Kojo Antwi is one of those guys who, you hear about, where they're looking at wide receivers and one more guy. He's one who's very consistently been yeah, they would take that guy right now. They love what they see out of him. And so if he's ready to go, and it sounds like he was, I think the visit went well this weekend from everything I've heard. I think if he's ready to go, they would be happy to take him, and that may be another one that's worth keeping an eye on in the short to medium term future.
I thought it was interesting. You and me and Alex were on Dominique Smith's show. I'm sure he'll be dropping it at some point, talking about the bland background for the recruiting photos. I saw this weekend CJ Hicks, they were taking photos up in the shoe, like down onto the field with the field in the background. And I was like, they're listening to the show, but it's not even been dropped. Like, how did they? But it was just, CJ Hicks was also on campus. And this is how I know CJ Hicks is like a real Buckeye. The jersey, the uniform he put on was the whites. He doesn't need the black jersey, the black uniforms. He appreciates the ones that mean the most, and so that's he's fine. He's like a 5-star guy. Who cares? Blah. He's from Ohio. He's already committed. It doesn't even matter. There's no excitement there. Another official visitor, Jake Pope, 3-star safety. Right now, it seems like all of their eggs are safely in the Xavier Nwampa and
Zion Branch
baskets, and things are going well there. They canceled the visit of another safety that was supposed to be coming in, I think, this week. So they're feeling pretty good, but also keeping guys warm in that respect. So I don't know that anything's happening there right now, but those were, I think, the bulk of the visits this weekend. And we said at the beginning of the month, like, what's the over under on commits? And I think maybe we settled on like 3.5 or 4.5. I don't know if we're going to get there, but if we could extend it to like July 15th, maybe we could get there.
Yeah, the number of commits nationally has been like exceptionally low, like a third of the normal rate during the month of June. And I'm a little surprised by that, but I guess maybe it's one of those things that we should have thought through a little more, because I figured it would be this long backlog, and then everyone gets to go see the school they think they're pretty sure they want to go to, and then, okay, it's good, and then they pop. And I think a lot of these guys are going, well, I've waited 15 months. I might as well take all of my visits this month. So, maybe July is the month that it all explodes. And it would not surprise me at all if, this weekend is kind of the last big weekend of recruiting, of on-campus visits. Next week, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, if you just sort of get this like wave of recruits. And, I think we have heard that there was speculation on like 4 different guys who could be coming in the span of the next week. So we may still get to, 4, 5, 6 recruits committing this month. So not, it's been a slow start, but I think once it starts, it's going to really, really go pretty quick. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of names, a lot of people who have been in Columbus the last month that I think are on that list. We have talked about a couple of them already today. And I think that's coming. It's just a little later than we thought it might be.
CJ Hicks tweeted out a GIF yesterday of the Miami Heat of not 1, not 2, not 3. So, I mean, it has to be 4 or more. He would know. He is Captain Buckeye, and he wouldn't lie to the people. There are a couple of official visitors on campus today, Monday. Tyler Booker, the number 5 offensive tackle in the nation out of IMG, number 42 player overall, and Terrence Brooks, number 8 cornerback in the nation, number 58 overall out of Texas. His dad played at Texas A&M, but it doesn't seem like A&M, I don't know if they're necessarily in the picture. They would take either one of these guys. Buckeyes still just have one offensive lineman in the class, Integra Shabola, who may be a guard, maybe a right tackle. There is sometimes consternation on the board about the future of left tackle once Paris Johnson leaves. We don't know what Zen Mahalski is going to be. Maybe he can grow into that. Right now, it seems like the roster and the guys that they're recruiting, there's a concern that it's all guards and right tackles. Mm-hmm. Like where are the left tackles? And maybe Tyler Booker is that. He's an important part of this, and they're in on some other guys who may be popping here shortly, but they still need guys. They've got one. And I think Bill Green keeps saying they need 4. They need 4. I would agree with that, because we don't, they haven't hit on all of the guys they've they've signed over the last few years, and sometimes you have to overcome that. But they need to start, let's get moving on some of these offensive linemen here. It's going to be December pretty soon.
They do have, I think they've got one in right now, but they've got, there's another one of those guys who's probably like in the next week or two, probably going to be in there. And okay, like he's another guard, maybe right tackle kind of player. You do have to field all 5 offensive line positions. That is one consistent in college football. So you're going to have to find a left tackle. And, they've brought in Zach Rice this month. They've got Tyler Booker in now. There are options. I don't know that Ohio State is anywhere near the top of the list for either of those guys. You're going to have to bring in you have to bring in someone, because guards are great and right tackles are great, but left tackle is kind of a unique skill set. And that's not something you can just like, well, we'll just kick a guard out to left tackle and I'm sure it'll be fine. It's like, no, that kind of takes a different body type, that takes a different skill set. And that is a position that you can't just kind of like, we'll fake it. We'll kind of like fake it for a year and I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, no. That's not a spot you can fake. So that's something they're going to have to get figured out. And, Booker, I'm sure, would be right at the top of their list of, if we could get a commitment from anyone right now, who would we pick? He would probably be pretty top of the list, or Zach Rice, someone like that. This is an important visit. They need to really knock this out of the park. And then, I guess the hope is you get him back for an unofficial in the fall if he's using his official right now. But, there is not anything imminent on the left tackle. There's a lot of stuff that seems like it's pretty imminent. There's nothing imminent on the left tackle spot, which I think it's reasonable for people to be a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah, and I'm not a guy that believes the left tackle needs to be 6'6" or 6'7". Jamarco Jones was now he's in the NFL at 6'4", and he was perfectly fine. And I've talked to Kirk Barton about this. He's like, Rob Simmons was like 6'3", and he was fine. It's just, but you do have to have the mobility and the length. You may not need to be tall, but you do need the long arms and all of that good stuff. So as an unofficial visitor coming in tomorrow on Tuesday, Caden Curry, defensive tackle out of Indiana, Center Grove High School, number 88 overall, number 15 defensive lineman in the composite rankings, number 3 player in Indiana. Saw him last summer, was completely blown away by him. He's listed as 6'5", 250, and I said this back in the summer when we talked about him. He's closer to 6'2" than 6'5". If I eyeball him when I saw him last year, I probably would have said like 6'2", 245, something like that. But it didn't matter because he's playing tackle and they couldn't stop him, and he was quick and he was fast and looked like a defensive end playing defensive tackle. So yes, he's Larry Johnson's prototypical 3 technique type of guy, basically. And it's interesting to me that I do think he is undersized, but he has offers from everywhere. Alabama wants him, and Clemson and Georgia and all of these big time schools, and seems like it's inevitably going to be Ohio State, but it's going to be a lengthy process. Did you get to see him at all last year?
I did not. You and Mark got to see him on your way back from the Big Ten protest, I think, something like that. But yeah, I did not get to see him in person last year. But from what Mark said, what Bill has said, and just the enthusiasm that Larry Johnson is recruiting him with, those are all people whose opinions I respect, especially Larry Johnson in the defensive line spot. So, if Larry Johnson really wants someone and Alabama really wants someone, that's probably more significant to me than just about anything else, because that tells me an awful lot about what very smart people think about something they know a lot about. So, yeah, he's someone who he has a lot of family ties to Ohio. He is someone who I think has been considered a strong Ohio State lean for quite a while, but is not in that going to happen very soon kind of group. That's not, he's not anything imminent, I guess, which is, I'm sure Ohio State would prefer to have him in the fold and have him shut everything down. But, again, you feel like you're probably in a pretty good position with him, I would think, if you're Ohio State. So just kind of keep actively recruiting. Don't back burner him. Keep him, keep him coming back to Columbus as often as he can. And, the nice thing is he's from basically Indianapolis, just east of Indianapolis, right? So, it's like maybe 3 hours to come to Columbus. So he should be able to visit Columbus fairly frequently and keep building those relationships and all that kind of stuff, keep building that comfort level. So, All of that works in Ohio State's favor, but it is not anything that's going to happen real imminently, apparently.
Yeah, and if you want to see highlights of what we saw, just go to YouTube and do a search on Buckeye Scoop, Caden Curry. You'll see the highlights from that game. He had a blocked punt that he scooped up and ran in for a touchdown. I think he had 3 or 4 sacks and was just an animal. So, Tom, we have camps Tuesday and Wednesday this week. You will be there taking it all in. There's a bunch of names. The biggest names, I'll just run through these, and you can tell me some of these guys you're looking forward to seeing. You got 5-star quarterback Dante Moore out of Michigan. These are all 2023 guys. He's the number 3 quarterback in the class, number 14 overall. 5-star 2023 Brandon Innis, the receiver, top receiver out of American Heritage, where Ohio State got Torrance Gibson, I believe. And then Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of IMG from Chicago, who was already at a camp a week or two ago, or at least visited. Mm-hmm. Anthony Brown, the Springfield wide receiver, who is, this poor kid. I shouldn't say this poor kid, but he wants an Ohio State offer, and he's working, trying to get that Ohio State offer. I think he was just offered by Michigan a couple of weeks ago. Santana Fleming is a teammate of Brandon Innis, one of these Florida wide receivers that are coming up. He's another top 100 guy. 4-star offensive tackle Peyton Kirkland, the number 8 offensive tackle, number 87 overall out of Orlando. Luke Montgomery, the number 5 offensive tackle, number 53 overall out of Findlay. And then his brother, 2025 quarterback Ryan Montgomery, will also be on campus. Michigan offered, I believe, last week, trying to, just nail down. If you've got a quarterback whisperer as a head coach, why not get all of the quarterbacks in a row? The 5-star 2023 defensive end Malik Bryant, the number 12 player overall, and number 2 edge, number 4 player in Florida, and then Derek LeBlanc, and number 54 overall, number 11 defensive lineman. So there are some significant names. Who knows if there's going to be a surprise or two, maybe surprise or two to show up. Maybe somebody backs out. That's just how these camps go. Brandon Innis, for me, I think is going to be one for you guys to watch. Sure, he's the number 1 receiver. I think currently crystal ball to Oklahoma with maybe one participant projection. So I'm interested to see what you guys think of him. I don't know that have you seen him before?
I have not. I was texting with a friend of mine who covers Florida high school football, and he said, kid is pretty good. Was a stud as a freshman. Can only imagine what he is like now, because they didn't get covered nearly as much high school football last fall as they would have normally. So he hadn't seen him in about a year. But, standing out at a place like American Heritage as a freshman is like, okay, there's a lot of, this is not like small school Ohio high school football. Like, no, this is big boy South Florida football. If you're on the field and standing out as a freshman, like, okay, that tells you something. He's Pat Surtain is his coach. So the father of recently departed Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain Jr. So, you've got a little bit of an Alabama tie there. Oklahoma's a threat, with any receiver, but he's not coming up here for the weather. So that is definitely one to keep an eye on. I am probably, of all the people, most interested in seeing him and seeing Brian Hartline work with him on Tuesday this week. That's going to be a lot. It's going to be really interesting to see, because he's just, you would think that, you would eventually stop being able to pull in all of these wide receivers. But, if you come in and you're a wide receiver and you come and it's like, oh, well, a lot of times there are other players out there. So if Garrett Wilson's out there working with you during camp, or watching you during camp, and Chris Golova is there working with you in camp, Jackson Smith-Njigba, all these guys, you would think that would be a positive thing for you. So yeah, he's definitely right at the top of the list of people I'm interested in seeing as well.
Dante Moore, the quarterback out of Detroit, they're throwing out a bunch of offers to the 2023 guys. I shouldn't say a bunch. They've been offering guys over June through these camps, and they've had a lot of guys come in and visit. For me, this position is going to be fascinating to watch over the course of this recruiting cycle, because you want to see who's going to be the guy that willingly comes in after Quinn Ewers signs in December. And that's, like we talked about with Dallan Hayden and Travion Henderson, who you don't have any fear about who else is on the roster. At quarterback, it's completely different because only one guy plays. And so I'll be interested. They've put out offers to some of the best, and those guys have all been on campus. And we'll see. Like it may not matter. It won't matter who they like best. It's like we like all of these 8 guys, and if one of them decides they want to come aboard, then you go for it. But then you still have to keep everybody else interested and intact, because there's no telling if that 2023 guy is going to stick that long. So it's really a fascinating position to watch. I wonder how much it is. I don't know if annoying is the right word, but like concerning, bothersome for the Ohio State coaches, knowing, like, I guess it's a good problem to have. Like, you've got Quinn Ewers, and now he's causing problems because the 2023 recruiting is a little bit more difficult.
Well, and you've got, not only do you have Quinn Ewers, you've also got Kyle McCord, who's a 5-star, who just came in this year, who, when Dante Moore or whoever is the 23 quarterback arrives, that'll just be the 3rd year for Kyle McCord. So, I mean, yes, this is way in the future, but also the guy who's on campus right now, who looked pretty impressive in the spring game, will still be there for at least 1 more year, could be 2 more years. And, the question is, okay, if you sort of presume CJ Stroud wins the job this year, and then CJ Stroud wins the job next year, there's no guarantee that Jack Miller and Kyle McCord both stay on campus for those 2 years. Like, one or both of them could transfer if they feel like they needed, they want to start sooner than that. And then once CJ Stroud leaves, then it's, Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers trying to battle for that job. And then Dante Moore's coming in a year behind that. So then there's just a bunch of moving parts there. You get the best guy you can get. You get the guy as securely as you can get him, and you move on. But yeah, I mean, as far as problems go, like, this is not really a problem, I don't think.
Because then, you figure you'll make up for it in 2024 when there's some separation and all of the cyclical nature of things. So I'm looking forward to it. It's always a fun thing. I'm going to miss when camps are gone. Tom, you may not miss it, and Bill and Mark may not miss it, because it's been a lot of work for you guys and it's long days, but it's been fun to be a part of from home, like I've been. So it's easier that way, but on the board, it's been fun. There's constant updates, just a ton of feedback, a ton of interaction. It's a good time to be a member. I'm not trying to sell you guys. I'm just telling you what's going on. All of this information coming in, talking about it, and getting a heads up on so much. And it's been an eye-opening experience this June, just to see everybody in action.
And it's been fun to see these kids in person too, where it's like, okay, it's not just a headshot on a recruiting site and 7 minutes of huddle film. It's like, okay, I've seen this guy in one-on-ones in person. I've seen this guy run in drills with Larry Johnson. I've seen, is he enthusiastically supporting the other people in his group who are people who are, going to be going to D2 schools? Is he kind of withdrawn, personality, all that kind of stuff? I mean, there's a lot you gain from in person. Yeah, I've enjoyed covering those camps a lot. It's a lot of time. But also it's been, during a month that is typically like a really slow month of content. Like, I was laying out this week's morning scoop shows, and it was like, I need to do like 9 shows this week, because there's a Supreme Court thing. There's more JT Tuimoloau. There's a couple days of camps, probably some commits coming. It's like, we're going to have to like do special double episodes, double features on some of these mornings. I don't know. It's going to be, I will never complain about having too much stuff to talk about. So that's always a good thing.
And then you'll have preview shows on Tuesday and Wednesday, live YouTube preview shows. And then the lunch edition of the what do we see in the morning? What are we going to see in the afternoon? We are doing a Monday Buckeye Weekly, which we don't do. And then we'll have Tuesday Buckeye Weekly, and probably more later in the week, because there is a lot going on. It's been a fun June, much better than last June, if I recall.
In your opinion, yes.
I don't want to step on any toes and make any assumptions on that, but it's been a fun time. So if you aren't yet a member, I would suggest it. I know most of you guys are, and you would vouch for me in what I'm saying. So I think that will do it. Tom, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'll plug Tuesday's morning scoop. I'm having Alex Gleitman on to talk about some of these guys. He's been scouting some of the guys who are kind of maybe next to pop for Ohio State in terms of commits. Some other names to know. and maybe some insight on some of the other recruiting visits that are happening this week. So that should be a fun conversation. Alex follows this stuff way more closely than I do. I'm following it a lot more closely than I used to, but he follows it way more closely than I do. And I said to him, well, I feel like I've had all of our recruiting guys on in the last 4 days. So you're up now, and then we'll go back to the start of the line, and we'll have Mark and Bill on, and then we'll have Nevada on over the weekend in the special bonus episode. Like we are just having, like, it is just everyone. I haven't had you on the Morning Scoop in like 3 weeks. So
review should be up then.
I was going to say it's been the best month of shows ever. So
I've been meaning to ask on the message board, like, for those of you who do listen to the podcasts, is there a point where there's too many? Like, have we overwhelmed you to the point of diminishing returns? But there's a bunch going on, so frankly, I don't care. Basically, so I think that will do it for this show. I do want to thank you guys for listening sincerely. Thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you, probably tomorrow.